Great to have your company around Australia and New Zealand for tonight's edition of The Front Page. Now, look, we've wrapped up the latest on coronavirus, but if we're going to just stick with the Oz for this yarn, and it always intrigues me about the amount of green lawfare that we have to put up with in this country. Now the Oz has put a figure on it. Green lawfare, a $65 billion hit. Green activists are using a backdoor on environmental laws to delay an estimated $65 billion in projects ranging from dams to a salmon farm, with lawfare forcing companies into court for more than 10,000 days in total since 2000. Conservation and green groups have used 11 new legal claims in the past 4 years to tie up 7 projects in regional areas, including the $16.5 billion Adani coal mine in Queensland, a new $140 million port on Melville Island in the Northern Territory, Victorian Government Forestry, and the $30 million Tasai salmon farm in Tasmania. And it's an exclusive here by Dennis Shanahan, the political editor at The Australian. And it goes on and on about the issues that are engulfing, project developers and so forth who are obviously battling this. Mbengi, what are your thoughts?
I think it's always a bit alarming to see, climate activists going to extremes to sort of get their point across. It sort of begs the question, is this legal? I think that not enough is sort of being done to sort of prevent, this outlandish behaviour, and I think that it needs to be looked into.
Dan Petrie, this is a favourite hobby horse of mine. I mean, earlier in the week we saw in the Clermont Magistrates Court a couple of these Extinction Rebellion sort of lunatics who were fined $1,500 each. They were both unemployed. They both came from Melbourne. They both chained themselves to train lines up around the Adani project. No doubt they'll appeal. No doubt it'll go up to the district court. No doubt the district court judge will slap them on the wrist and say, don't do that again, otherwise I'll put you in the naughty corner. It's a big issue here in Australia. I can't believe we've allowed this country to allow these people to hold us so hostage to their wanton activism.
Gleeso, I'm coming in off the long run here.
Good.
The simple fact is the toilets, the hospitals, the education system, the roads, the infrastructure, the bridges, the jobs which we enjoy, the standard of living which we enjoy is in large part paid for by the mining industry. Now, here in the state of Queensland, 10% of the revenues we enjoy in this state, which give us everything, come from the mining industry. The fact of the matter is Australia has amongst the best regulation with the best mines in the world. And that is just a fact. Now, if you want to start jeopardising that, sabotaging that, well, what you're doing is you're destroying the hopes and dreams of a generation. We have poor tradie outcomes in terms of people becoming plumbers and engineers, particularly working on new mining projects. If we don't have those projects, we've got nothing. Australia, at its very core, particularly from an export space, is a farm and quarry economy when you're talking about merchandise exports. Our next biggest export, particularly a service-led one, is in education. If we are not creating the high-level industries, those ones with high barriers to entry, we will not succeed in the Asian century. So the bottom line is this: using lawfare is basically a self-fulfilling prophecy for self-assured destruction from an economic sense. So the green lawfare, which you've quite rightly highlighted, needs to be tackled and tackled head-on. We've got great regulation which takes into account environmental concerns.
I mean, you think of a project like the Nathan Dam up near Rocky. It was held up off the back of a dozen snails. Not even a Parisian entree. And here we had a dozen snails holding up a major water project in Queensland. I mean, we can go on and on and on with examples.
And the taxpayer has to shell out for that too.
Yeah.
Indeed.